Hi, my name is Gerald, and I run a YouTube channel called Core A Gaming, and I'm also the founder of a video production company called Core A by itself. And I have a few tips for making content that I hope you guys will find useful. The first tip is what I call the "What's your point" test. And everyone knows what it's like to tell a story to a friend or a family member, something that happened on a birthday party or at the grocery store. And sometimes your story lands, the jokes are funny and they're really enjoying your story. Sometimes it can really miss, and you'll be talking about stuff, you'll be rambling, and then at one moment, somebody might say something like, "Okay, but what's your point? What are you trying to tell me?" And we've all heard this when telling stories to a friend, and that's okay because we're just making up the story as we go along when we're talking to people. But if you're making a video, if you're making content, you don't want your audience to be thinking, "Okay, what's the point of this? Like, what is it trying to tell me?" And so the point is basically the North Star of what your entire video is about, right? So when you can find your point, you can start putting in things into the video that support that point. And everything in your video needs to go supporting that point. And if you go off in another direction, then this is when you start getting people thinking, what's your point? A quick point on length. Focus on substance, not length. Shorter is not better. Shorter is just shorter. And the reason I mentioned this is because we all know there's a Daigo Perry video. I don't know how many of you guys have seen the Daigo Perry video, maybe a few of you in the audience. And then there's Lord of the Rings, the first movie, Fellowship. The first one, which is very different in length, 75 seconds versus 10,680 seconds, right? So when you think about length, nobody's thinking, oh, well, I mean, Lord of the Rings, that should have been an hour and a half. 3 hours is just too long. Or the Daigo Perry video, well, I mean, we could have shortened it a little bit, to maybe like 30 seconds. That doesn't make any sense. And to go back to the story analogy, if you put time limits and constraints on the content that you're making, it's really hard to tell your story. Imagine if somebody said, okay, tell us about the grocery incident on Tuesday, and it has to be 60 seconds long. It can't be 61, it can't be 59, it has to be exactly 60 seconds long. Imagine how annoying that would be to try to fit your story into that time space. You could do it, but it's not going to be the most effective way to tell the story. And in the video space, this happens a lot because you see there's like a commercial block where you have to have it exactly a certain length of time. And I understand that. Sometimes you have to do that. If you're doing a Super Bowl commercial, every second matters and it has to fit that time slot. But in this media age, we don't really have to do any of that, right? You can just make it however long to fit your story, right? So the rule for length, in my opinion, is that what you are trying to convey should determine the length of your content, not the other way around. Right? So... All right, I can't go over structure because this is a 15-minute talk in its entirety, at least. So this is Matt Stone and Trey Parker of South Park fame. They kind of talk about this idea of using but and therefore instead of and then in between story points or just key points in your narrative, whatever you're writing or telling. And this kind of gives you an idea of how structure works. These two sentences, these two little stories, they convey the same information pretty much, but they have a very different impact. So if you look at the first one, it says, the knight goes to the castle, and then he sneaks past the dragon, and then he gets to the treasure. But then if you look at the next one, it says, the knight goes to the castle, but a dragon is guarding the treasure. Therefore, he sneaks past it. You can just feel the impact of that, and that's the same information. It's just that now you have but and therefore, with but being acting as the conflict and therefore acting as the result or causality. So yeah, that just gives you an idea of how this structure stuff works. So this is a clip from my video I did called The Miracle of Pakistani Tekken. For those of you who don't know, Pakistan has, in the past like 5 years, proven themselves to be the best region in Tekken in the world, where Korea used to be the best region. And it's crazy how it happened, because if you look at in Pakistan, so the infrastructure and the visa issues that the players have to overcome just to go to other countries to compete, it's like impossible. And so I went to Pakistan and I just filmed a bunch of stuff. It was I mean, there's so many cool things there to film, so many people to interview, but I had all this stuff. I didn't know what kind of documentary to make. What was my point? What was my North Star? And I saw an interview that was translated, and it was an arcade owner named Zaman, and he basically described everything that's happened with Pakistani Tekken as a miracle. And immediately I knew that is my point, that is my North Star. Everything I'm gonna put in this documentary is gonna be about proving why this phenomenon is a miracle. Why the Pakistani scene growing like this is against all odds. And so here's a clip. Don't know if we have sound on the clip, but we just. All right, well, I can describe the things that are happening. So basically, in this clip, this is an arcade in Pakistan, and you'll notice that there's electricity meters on the wall over there, and those cabinets are actually hand built because they can't get the official Bandai Namco cabinets, so there's like a woodworker, literally like a woodworker that just builds the cabinets from scratch. And a lot of the parts are just scrap parts that they'll find. And then they just build the arcade machines. They have like consoles inside them. There's a lot of blackouts. This is a gamer in Pakistan who's talking about how he has to schedule his gaming time based on when the blackouts occur. And that's your practice session. If you're an esports player, you're practicing based on, okay, when do I have electricity? And of course, there's cost issues, importing everything. And then those are UPS systems. Those are batteries that are designed to at least give you some extra time when your power goes out. So yeah, it's a miracle that any of this stuff happened. And if you ever get a chance to watch the video, you'll see that everything I put in the video is going towards that North Star, the point that Pakistani Tekken is a miracle. The second tip is called acknowledge the gameplay. This one kind of seems obvious, but there's a lot of content, a lot of content creators, I think, in the gaming space, in esports, is putting a lot of engagement on the table by not touching gameplay as much. The reason why I think gameplay is important is obviously the players really, really appreciate it, right? There's a section of the viewer base that will appreciate it, and an example is the StarCraft II Legacy of the Void opening cinematic. This is probably the greatest opening cinematic I've ever seen in a game. This is peak Blizzard, I guess you could argue. But the thing that really brings it to the next level is the gameplay references. I don't know how many of you guys played StarCraft or Protoss in particular, but this is a clip from the trailer, and you'll start to see the gameplay acknowledgments and references.
You're a Protoss player?
Yes, I am a Protoss. I'm sorry. So that's a probe, building a pylon, some Balings there, and here comes the Zealot. And you see the shields, of course, Protoss players. The mechanic is the shield mechanic, and then you have the health. And we got some High Templars in action. And of course, if you guys know StarCraft, you take 2 High Templars to create a bigger, badder unit called the Archon, right? And one of the Templars is even wounded here, as you can see. That's actually in the game. You take wounded Templars to build your Archon to be more resourceful, right? Because once it builds the Archon, it gets full health again. So that's like a gameplay reference. And there's your Archon. Yeah, it says power overwhelming, which is a cheat code from the first StarCraft. Anybody who's played the first StarCraft, this invulnerability. So there's like a reference to there as well. So if you look in the comments, I mean, acknowledging the gameplay acknowledges the community. Look at these comments have some of the most likes, and they're all gameplay related. The first one talks about anyone else always get full body chills when the Archon forms and says power overwhelming. This next one says that the zealot who gave his life to protect the pylon from banelings, he deserves more credit. Of course, using units as cannon fodder to protect your buildings is a big StarCraft thing. You must construct additional trailers. Obviously, that's a reference to you must construct additional pylons. So yeah, the next reason to acknowledge the gameplay in your content is it respects the player's skills in a way that's deeper than merely who wins or loses. So if you look at Steph Curry here on the left, I don't know how many of you guys are NBA people, but Steph Curry is a 4-time NBA champion, and that's a great fact to know about him. But I don't think it does it justice just to know Steph Curry as like an NBA champion. He is one of the greatest three-point players in NBA history, I think. I think he has the most three-pointers ever, if I'm not mistaken. I know somebody here who knows basketball stats might correct me, but that's his specialty. And then the player on the right is a Valorant player, a duelist in Valorant named Texture. And Texture also, he's known for his entry fragging, and he's also known for getting aces very often, but he's also known for almost getting an ace. An ace is when you kill all 5 members of the opposing team in a 5v5, first-person shooter, tactical shooter game. And he always gets 4, and then somebody kills the 5th one for him, and he gets really mad, and he throws a tantrum. And so our company, Core A, which is the commercial video company, we did this video for VCT Pacific Kickoff, the hype trailer this year, and we just jam-packed this trailer with so many Valorant gaming references and community references, including the texture tantrum when he can't get the last kill. So again, there's no sound here, but yeah, you can get an idea. So yeah, in this trailer, there's the commentators, they're commentating, and all the players they're just thrown into a match. They're players from all different teams, so it's kind of fun for the fans to see people playing on their enemy's team. And yeah, there's a reference. There's a dart in the game, and of course these graphics. This is CG elements from the game. It's rendered at higher quality. It's not actually from the game, and this is kind of a treat for the players. There's the ace 4. He's looking for the ace, and then his teammate gets it. And then the texture tantrum, and the commentators are talking about that. And so, yeah, just when you acknowledge the gameplay and you acknowledge the players like that, yeah, if you look in the comments, people really got a kick out of that. So that's acknowledge the gameplay. The final tip I have here is called tangential learning, and this concept is something that I learned from MatPat of Game Theorists, a very, very big YouTuber, old school, I think, at this point. MatPat is, I don't think he's making content directly anymore these days, but their channel's still up. Anyways, so tangential learning is kind of the idea that you're teaching somebody something by means of something that of a topic that they might be more interested in than just the thing that you're teaching, right? So an example of this, one of my videos is called Why Button Mashing Doesn't Work for Fighting Games. And I could have named it The Importance of Frame Data and Distance in Fighting Games, but that kind of sounds like a lecture, right? You don't want to click on a video that sounds like a lecture. So people prefer explanations over lectures, but Why Button Mashing Doesn't Work also it's not just a clickbait title. It's not just there to be provocative. It's also the way I structured the video. So I answer that question. I actually answer why button mashing doesn't work. But in order to answer that, you have to talk about things like frame traps. You guys who play fighting games know a frame trap is a situation where if you're pressing any button, you're gonna die. Like you can't press the button because your opponent has the advantage in that situation. And if you get frame trapped, you don't want to press anything. You just want to block, backdash, move away, or whatever. And that's the reason why button mashing doesn't work. That's one of the reasons. So you have to talk about frame traps. Well, guess what? You have to talk about frame data. So taking that approach is definitely more engaging for audiences. Treat your audience like they're smart people that just don't know. So, yeah, I think it's you don't want to approach these kind of things like you're educating people who are idiots, because obviously people are not going to receive that well. So, for example, this is Albert Einstein, a pretty smart guy. But he doesn't know anything about fighting games, because fighting games didn't exist when Albert Einstein was around, right? But he did know about baseball. He lived in the U.S. when baseball was at its peak, and so in one of my videos, I explained the idea of canceling, or this FADC in Street Fighter 4. It's a mechanic where you can remove the frames of an animation to do something else faster later. I don't know if I explained that well, but I don't know. To remove end lag if you're a Smash player. This is such an abstract concept, but with the power of After Effects, I took a baseball clip and I had Derek Jeter, swing and removed his in frames so that he would go directly to running toward first base immediately. So he would he'd be able to go there faster, right? And people look at that and they immediately understand the concept of FADC, even if they don't know what a fighting game is. And so if you treat people like they're smart, then you can come up with these ideas for them. Use games as a gateway to explain meaningful concepts outside gaming. So this is kind of my thing, I guess, I do with my YouTube channel. So the latest video I did is called How to Reduce Salt. And it's about salt in video games when you play online and you lose and you get really upset, that kind of salt. And the way I approach it is I use a self-help book where I get the 10 cognitive distortions from cognitive behavioral therapy. So I take a concept like that and I apply it to when you get angry that you lost to your opponent because they taunted you online, right? So this is the idea of tangential learning. When it's in this context, you're like, oh, okay, like this stuff actually can be very beneficial. But then people are like, wow, actually, this concept actually works for helping myself feel better if I get rejected on a first date or a job interview as well, right? So these kind of things can really open up new possibilities for using gaming to make content, and it also deepens what it means to play these games as well. So yeah, here's kind of a clip of the video. Of course, I'm narrating it. If I memorize the script, I'd narrate it for you right now. But yeah, here's the book, Feeling Good by David Burns. No, it's not closed beta test. Cognitive behavioral therapy. A lot of people thought CBT meant something else. Yeah, and yeah, I mentioned here it's a very deep topic, but it's not as heavy when you think about just playing games and getting salty, right? And so one of the diagrams in the book, there's this 3-point diagram where it's not the salt. The salt doesn't come from the game. What happens is you perceive what happened in the game, and then you have an automatic thought, which is called your internal dialogue. And then you say, like, I suck, or whatever. And then that thought is what makes you feel salty. And that's basically a concept from the Buddha had come up with it, and Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. So there you have it, Greek Stoic philosophy in a video about getting mad at your opponent online, right? Yeah, and that's it. Thanks for watching, and hope you found this useful.
Hey guys, my name is Shay Ruecker. I am from Saskatchewan. I don't know, but I'm here for whatever reason. I'm actually the president and founder of the Saskatchewan Esports Association. Yes, we have one of those. And I'm here to moderate. We got 3 guests here. We're doing another panel about content creation and gaming. So I'm going to bring up our guests one at a time here. So I got Steve from Gamesight. Come on up here, and I'll have them introduce themselves a little more. They can. Who's ready? Is it Gerald? Are you ready? Eric? Eric, come on up here. You can come up here. This is Eric. And Gerald, sorry. Okay, we're all here. Okay, cool. You guys can have a seat and then grab your microphones. There you go. Go in there. Okay, we're squeezing up on here. I'm sorry, man. They didn't have the table in front. I know you didn't want your Crocs there, but
That's okay.
okay. So I'm gonna get you guys to introduce yourselves a little better than I could. So we'll start with Steve. Go ahead.
Hello. My name's Steve. I also go by Speeve, whatever you prefer. I'll answer to both. I hail from the frozen wastes of Winnipeg, Manitoba. We just got a blizzard on the way in. That was a very bumpy plane ride. I've been in the industry for about 15 years as a competitor, 10 years professionally. My journey started with a little company called All You're Based Online in Winnipeg, just helping support with event production, stream, news reporting. That was really cool to kind of get behind the scenes in the grassroots space. From there, I got involved with a company called Memory Express, where I became their tech host, community manager, and then esports manager, which brought me to a journey to BC to help the gaming stadium launch their facility. And that was kind of my esports trajectory. But now I work with content creators. It's very fun, very fulfilling, and I love it. So that's some Steve lore.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Eric, can you introduce yourself? Oh, wait, no, we'll go Eric. We'll go back and forth. Sorry.
Hello. My name's Eric. I'm the CEO of Akshon Media. We're a full-service media production company that specializes in the gaming and esports space. So for some of my background, I was a science major. I was doing my master's. I was a research assistant. And then my friend was like, hey, do you want to start an esports media company? Out of the blue. And I was like, sure, why not? And then, so we started off doing like websites and news articles before transitioning to running a YouTube channel. And then as the industry shifted, we began doing like white label content work for like different companies, brands, and talent. And that kind of covers where we are today. We're more of a full service media agency than just a YouTube channel now. But most people in gaming know us for our YouTube content.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Gerald, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if they know.
Yeah, I guess I can maybe go back further from the beginning. I was born in Dallas, Texas, and I grew up there for most of my life. But I moved to Korea maybe about 12 years ago, and that's where I started a video business. I did some freelance work, and then started a video production business with some partners, and when it wasn't doing very well, we had to make more content of our own because clients weren't wanting it from us. So that's why I started the YouTube channel Corey Gaming, and then afterwards things got better business-wise, and the YouTube channel and everything. So that it's kind of a background, and right now we're doing a lot of content, for the YouTube and also for commercial clients.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. So I kind of gave a little breakdown of myself, but why the hell am I up here? These guys have way more pedigree than I do. So I'm actually somewhat famous. In 2009, Street Fighter 4 came out, and I got a capture card that had AV only, 480, and I put a little video up about how to unlock all the characters in Street Fighter 4. Overnight, I got 1 million views. It was crazy. And this was back in 2009. YouTube, Machinima, all these places reached out to me. YouTube even wanted to say, hey, we'll do a partnership with you. I looked at the email, though, and they said, no gameplay footage, though. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's done, and I just didn't pursue it, so. But, there's not a whole lot of gameplay.
You can't give up that fast.
Yeah, well.
It's too hard.
It was at the time, right? I was a dumb kid, and I was like, I don't want to get in trouble, obviously. So I'm there. I also talk a lot. I don't know why Rosa decided to give me a microphone, but here I am. But we're not talking about me. We're going to talk about everyone else here. So I kind of want to highlight a little bit what they do in terms of content creation, because the one thing that they all have in common is they've been able to make this a career. Not only just creating videos, which obviously I think, Eric, you do a lot more just general media, but they've been able to take their passion of gaming, put it into a way where they can tell stories and actually monetize that. So, actually, let's start with you, Eric. So how did that kind of come to be, where you just transitioned from your love of gaming into, hey, we can actually find a way to make money off this? You have a big team, I know that, you were saying.
So it kind of started because I was a consumer of the content itself. I used to watch a lot of League of Legends content, Counter-Strike content. Then I was like, wow, wouldn't it be great to learn how the sauce is made? And then as hired editors, writers, and talked to other people in the space, I kind of understood the content creation process. I was never something like I learned from school, or it was more of like a self-taught, discovery experience. And then ever since, I've just been like continually learning, all the best practices. Some of them that Gerald mentioned, others, you can look at Marvel, Disney. People love the hero's journey, incorporating narrative, like title, like setting expectations, having, doing what Mr. Beast does and having like the payoff at the end. There's always like places to learn from, and I incorporate like these learnings into like my content, whether it's for our own YouTube channel or for our client work, and we like create like a good process that way. And I think building a good media company is about learning and continuing to refine these production processes.
It's really funny that you mentioned Mr. Beast too, because when I was talking to Steve before, working at Memory Express, that's how you kind of catapulted into, okay, cool, we can actually do content creation, use it as a marketing tool, and yeah, it's actually going to be a huge value to a company like Memory Express. They sell computers, right? What does content creation do? Did you draw inspiration from our good buddy Linus out in Vancouver here?
No, it was multiple brands actually at the time. It was how it happened actually was we had an all hands meeting and we're talking about new initiatives to kind of drive marketing forward. And I was like, look at what NCX is doing, look at what Kinetic Computers is doing, and look at what Linus is doing. Like, there's clearly an opportunity here. And then they're like, great, you're the guy. And I'm like, oh, so that's got to kind of go hooped into it because I already had that resume of doing some esports content when I was at All Your Base Online. So I had some of the content to back up what I was kind of proposing there. So that's really kind of like where the journey began. It's
a strange kind of history because we all kind of grew up when online content creation was becoming popular, and it's something where you can actually make a business of. And influences are a strange thing, right? Like you were drawing from just companies itself. And Gerald, like, what about you? What influences did you have from a content creation space?
Yeah, so I mean, I do have my influences. I like Every Frame Painting. I think he's. Wait, isn't he? Is he from Canada? Am I in trouble here?
Which one, sorry?
Every Frame in Painting. Tony Joe. It's a YouTube channel that makes video essays about film form, and yeah, he's been a big inspiration. I mentioned Game Theorists as well, tangential learning and all that stuff. But I got into the fighting game stuff because I like fighting games, first of all, but I was living, that's when I started living in Korea, and there were like really good players at the time that nobody was talking about in the fighting game community because all of it was in Korean. And even in Japan, there were people that were translating the interviews and of developers and players and everything, but in Korea there wasn't anything like that for fighting games. So I was like, oh, okay, I can make videos. I speak Korean. I can make these voices heard internationally. And so that's kind of how it started. But I don't really do player interviews as the main content anymore. Now, what I do with player interviews is I use player interviews as a source for a topic that I'm working on. So when it comes to interviews now, I'm like, I asked Justin Wong about salt, because in the recent video, how to reduce salt, and it was at EVO Japan, and all my questions were about salt. Like, what do you do when you lose and you feel bad? Do you hide it? All these questions pertaining to that specific topic. So whenever I interview people, sometimes they'll get asked questions that are really hyper-focused on one topic, and sometimes they're taken aback. They're like, all right, I thought we were just going to talk about what it feels like to win EVO. And I'm like, oh, yeah, when you do a one jab in Tekken, why is that important? And, what kind of advantage this gives you for the next hit? And he's like, well, what? That was JDCR in one of my videos. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach stuff now with my content.
Well, we're drawing a lot of inspiration from just everything, right? Like, obviously, you're known as the FGC guy. Like Steve, you talked about Pokemon, and then, you were all over the place when I was talking about that because, even when it's salt, right? We all get salty at almost any game that's competitive. It's tough to avoid. I have watched your videos several times about that, trying to find my Zen. I haven't found it yet, but I'll work on it. So it's great to try to find that way to translate that into other mediums. So Eric, how do you approach a specific subject and make it broad? You're telling the story to more than just who's focused on Valorant, who's focused on whoever you're working with.
When it comes to video, it really comes down to who your target audience is. So you have to develop the video for that audience. So if it's for the players, like Gerald's content, maybe we'll lean more into gameplay. But maybe it's for like a sponsor piece. We want to tell like a player narrative more. Like what you'll see for like a League of Legends Worlds trailer. That's more about like the hero's journey. Then we'll talk about like their bracket run, and it really depends on identifying that, and that all comes down to like having like a solid pitch, the outline, and then communicating that through your team. So you end up making sure like the North Star that Gerald just taught everyone about is maintained throughout the video. So you end up feeling like, yeah, I answered the question that the video was posing to me, or I came away with like an understanding of like this player's story. So always understanding who the target audience is probably tantamount to like making like a good video.
So spreading out different influences and different subjects. You are from like a TCG background, Steve.
Yeah.
How does that work out in terms of transitioning something that's not really seen as in the same vein as esports? And how do you try to tell that story to people in a way that they're going to be able to understand that aspect of the gaming?
You know, it's interesting because when we really look at like the TCG storylines, it's very similar on the esports track. There's the mindset, the mindfulness, the training. There's a lot of mind work with it. So it's not just I flipped some cards. There's strategy. So there's a lot of mental game with that. But then when we're looking at the content pieces in the TCG space, there's your typical deck building. There's what are the best cards, which ones should you be picking up. But when we're looking at storylines, there's similar storylines to like typical esports. We're seeing the player's journey. We're seeing people's worlds runs right across a year of competition. We're seeing them rise. We're seeing people fall. We're seeing the drama of, hey, they just drew 7 cards. Are they going to hit what they need? Like the suspense. Like there's so much storytelling in like these 60 cards. I'm talking specifically to the Pokemon TCG because like the whole thing is you have 60 randomized cards and you're hoping that Arceus is on your side when you're flipping those cards. So there's a lot of interesting storytelling opportunities within the space.
Do you use the Arceus is on your side a lot in the community? I
pray to Arceus. I'm like, please, like we have a city championship coming up this weekend. And I'm like, please be on my side this weekend. Please be on my side this weekend. So
Eric and Steve, you guys are both from Canada, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Gerald, you're in Korea right now. Why did you go from Dallas to Korea? Like, can't you tell the same stories when you're not there? Like, it must have been super expensive and difficult to go out to Pakistan and make that video.
Yeah. So I guess, my parents are Korean, so I have family in Korea as well. So I was there. I was visiting, I think, maybe once every 2 years, and I was doing film work just as a freelancer and as a filmmaker. And I found some work there in South Korea, in Seoul. And then that work turned into, hey, why not make this into a business? And started a business with 3 people. And then, yeah, it just kept on growing and growing. And then once that happens, you can't just be like, well, I'm going to go not live here anymore, because now you have like a team and you have like, so but then South Korea is also kind of an esports capital. I think it's one of the only countries where professional gamers are household names. You can go to a taxi driver and talk about Emil Hwan, Slayer's boxer from StarCraft days, and Faker. Obviously, you guys probably know about Faker. You'll just see like people working at 7-Eleven watching League of Legends. It's a very esports gaming centric country as well. So, that fits with what I'm doing, and wish they had the fighting game scene that Japan does, but can't have everything in the country. But Korea has lots of gaming stuff. So, with the Pakistan video, actually, I don't know if I ever told anyone what actually happened with that. Was I was doing video production work for a different project in Pakistan, and I asked my client, can I like work on my own stuff too at the same time? It's like, oh yeah, if you book extra days, you can go ahead and do that, right? And I was like, okay, cool. So I stayed at extra days there, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to film as much stuff as I can. And yeah, I came back with a cool little story that I'm pretty happy with.
That's really cool. Is my mic on again? Okay, sorry. I'm not so good at the mic and stuff. So Eric and Steve, you guys are from Canada, right? Like, how do we tell stories that are Canadian? Have you guys looked into opportunities for highlighting what we can do in terms of Canada storytelling, esports athletes that are there, teams, like whatever we want to highlight in the north here, right? Where the patriotism is at a high.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think when you're looking at telling the Canadian story, there's multiple tracks, and like when we're talking esports, I think you kind of look at your foundations first, and that's really starting with the scholastic story, the grassroots story, and kind of like where we are building these strong foundations to tell these stories of like rising stars, people coming up, and then we kind of expand from there. We look at big events like Battle of BC. We're looking at GOML. We're looking at the stories of these competitors. You know, these people that are coming in. Why are they here? How long are they competing for? You know, what's their story? Why this event? Why Canada now? And identifying those stories too. And like, there's also like so many diverse communities in the grassroots space that are up and coming right now that, you know, we should be focusing on those stories and uplifting those stories as well. So.
How about you, Eric?
I agree with Steve, 100%. He hit the nail on the head there. Canada's a pretty small country when it comes to population, so we don't have too many esports events here, or companies, or teams. So the best thing for us to like highlight and platform is our grassroots community, much like Battle of BC.
So you are a COO, but you're a science major, but you were talking about how you just had to learn so much on the fly about like just running a business, right? Personnel, you're even doing sales. One thing that I have to do, I do a lot of government advocacy, which means I talk to a lot of old people who are just like, I played Pac-Man back in the day. And that's literally every time I go to anything government related, they go up and do speech. I didn't know what this all was, but I played Pac-Man, I played Mario. Same story every time. But how do you approach companies or individuals who aren't necessarily versed in the space? And how do you tell them the story in order for them to say, okay, yeah, we're all in to get you to do that as well?
I think having bigger events really helps. So I was trying to get a bunch of government grants recently from like Creative BC, and they don't even have a digital media fund set up right now. So people like you are definitely like helping get more funding for creators, especially in Canada, when we're a bit slower on the pickup. Like they don't even have a fund or grants for anyone who makes YouTube content, social content. It's all for movie, film, and TV right now still. So more events like this, more stats, because that really what speaks to like the federal government will help us get to that level where we can actually start getting more support, telling stories, and like elevating the entire esports industry.
Okay, awesome. So, Gerald, when I met you this morning, or not, yeah, this morning, do you remember what the first thing I said to you was?
The very first thing?
How
you mentioned the video that you had made.
watch the video, but the first thing I said is, I fall asleep to your voice a lot.
Oh yeah.
So he's got a really nice voice, and I don't want to
Try to erase that from my mind, I guess.
I don't know why you don't hear that all the time, right? But I think you found a strategy to kind of make your approach to storytelling, and you talked about it there as well, right? Like, how did you be able to find that even cadence in your voice, and how were you able to use that to, you know, even reach out? I said my wife doesn't like fighting games. She doesn't understand them at all. She watches all your videos with me. So why? How did you translate that into?
I don't know. This is kind of, I have been asked this before, and to be honest, when I started my YouTube channel and when I was narrating the video essays, I had somebody else do it. It was one of my partners for the video business, and I always thought that he had a kind of a radio voice. So I would just write the script and do all the editing, and I just had him record it. But then at one point, I was just like, I have to do a punch in here. I changed this line. I want to change the order of this thing, and I have to bother him every single time. And at that point, I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to go and do this myself. And I never thought of my voice being, something that's, people would fall asleep to, or somebody told me that they listened to my voice in the shower one time, a combo breaker. I was like,
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Yeah. But Yeah, I mean, I think what probably happened was, I mean, they watch the content, and the content is maybe meaningful to them, and they really enjoy it, and then they associate the content with my voice, and then people are like, oh, I like that voice. That voice is, told me all this cool stuff. I don't know. I don't. There's probably some kind of psychotherapist out there that can understand this, but
Well, it's not even that. I think what's compelling is the fact that you sound like you, right? I came and I chatted with you, and I'm like, oh, I know this dude, even though I've never seen you face. You're just doing you.
Yeah, well, to be honest, so I watch my old stuff, and I cringe a lot, because I sound really monotone and not as expressive. I mean, it's not that I'm like super expressive now, but if you watch the later stuff, I try to intonate more, and I try to put emphasis on certain syllables, and that's something that just comes over time when you explain stuff over and over again, and then and then you kind of get this. I'm sure people can make fun of my voice now because I do have like a pattern and like it's there's a thing I do now.
Well, okay, so Steve, and I'm not singling you out because all of us four, we have the same thing. How do you get over the cringe?
How do you get over the cringe?
The self cringe.
You just accept it and move on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm cringe, but I'm free.
Okay.
You just at the end of the day, it really comes down to, like how I got over it was like, I just kind of went, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you can't change the past, just move forward. You learn from everything. And if people say that's cringe, you go, cool, all right, what did you do? Get on stage, do it yourself. And you'll understand that it's not cringe, it's a learning experience. So, yeah. It just, like, if anything, just like take that cringe and learn from it, so.
On a larger scale, I think I have notes that you have 12 employees, right, Eric? How do you kind of work with employers, like even people who are looking to get in the space, talking to employers? Like, how do you find those people with the proper voices and cadence, and people being able to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, to kind of create the whole collage?
I think having a good portfolio goes a long way. So whenever someone applies to work, whether it's on like YouTube Jobs or like Fiverr or like even through referral, I always look through like their body of work to see what they've done. And if it kind of impresses me at a glance, I love to learn more about them. So really work on yourself, whether you're a writer of a muck rack or, even building your Behance profiles on case studies, super important, because if you don't advertise yourself, no one else will. So you have to kind of be your own salesman when you're trying to land gigs and jobs. I know Gerald can probably speak to this too. As a freelancer, you really need to sell yourself.
You don't work, you don't eat, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta eat what you hunt.
Okay, like Monster Hunter, right? We talking about that. What you're carving up, you're wearing stuff, not regular. Sorry. So we can go back to a couple other questions and just kind of talk. I wanted to open up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Hands up, don't be shy. Talking a lot for myself. I can just move on, that's cool.
I rudely pulled Gerald aside before the panel because I didn't even realize he was coming right back up to the stage. So first of all, I want to apologize for that because I was really
didn't realize that either.
No, I was really excited to talk to you about your Miracle of Pakistani Tech, and as I was sharing with you, I've actually used that video in one of my classes where we talk about economic development in South Asia and whatnot. What I loved about that video in particular wasn't just, obviously the storytelling was fantastic, but the way that you incorporated not just esports elements, but those cultural elements as well. Now my favorite esports trivia fact is that the Muslim pilgrimage is the reason that PlayStations exist in Pakistan. It's the craziest thing ever. So I guess what I'd like to know is not just how you tell stories, but how you find stories. How do you go about in your process of discovery, identifying those, I suppose, windows of opportunity for cool trivia pieces and whatnot?
So I do. So what I've noticed with making mini documentaries or stories is that that point that you come up with, the North Star, sometimes you'll have it immediately, and then you'll create the documentary based on that. You know exactly what beats you want to hit, what kind of interviews you want, and sometimes you just film a bunch of stuff, talk to a lot of people, get a lot of information. You just pull in all this information and these cool stories and facts, And then you come up with your North Star from there. You come up with your point, or the thesis or argument or claim that's, that it's called in different formats, but I just like to call it the point. And so with the Pakistan Tekken video, I did as much as I could, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to Pakistan like all the time. So I was like, okay, I'll just come up with a story afterwards, and I filmed Arslan Ash, top player from Pakistan. I filmed arcade owners, and I even filmed the commentators of the Tekken scene there and the King of Fighters scenes. And I just reached out for all the most interesting aspects that I could find. And they took me around. They took me to some mosques, and I filmed as much as I could, as much as they would allow me. And for example, like, there are religious components that I didn't even know would make it into the video, because it's a video about the Tekken community, right? But those fit in because I realized my North Star was the idea of a miracle, right? And there's definitely religious undertones in that. And everything started coming together when I had that North Star. And so the idea of, Pakistan doesn't have official distributors for PlayStations and Nintendo and all that stuff. So the pilgrimage to Mecca, where they have to go, like almost everyone will have to go at one point, and then the uncle brings back video games, right? And that being brought into the country was very much, that's a cool fact, right? But then how do you incorporate that into the story? Well, it's super fits now that I have my point, right? But sometimes you'll have the point that you're trying to make, and then you realize, oh, that cool fact doesn't actually support that point at all, and you just have to suck it up and be like, I'm going to cut that out of the video. That's really where you can. That's the mark of somebody who can really edit something really well, is having the courage to cut out the best shot that you made, cut out the best little tidbit or fact or funny thing, because it doesn't fit. And luckily, I was able to get those cool facts in there with that. Sometimes you'll have a lot of cool facts and a lot of cool things that's not fitting into your point, your thesis or whatever, and you'll be like, you know what, screw that thesis. Like, that's, I'm gonna do something else, because these cool things that I have will point towards a better North Star. So sometimes you change North Star. So that's the second school of thought for finding your North Star is, either you have a North Star from the beginning, or you make it with the information that you get. So sorry if that was a little long-winded, but that's the point I was getting at.
We didn't. Oh, you have water. You actually have water. Okay. I'll stop you from talking here for a little bit here. Anyone else have any questions? I can kind of riff off that. Yep.
So, we're all from the world of esports, right? We all kind of have seen how big esports is getting, a lot more non-independent brands getting involved in everything. Other than things like knowing how to spell the word esports properly, what are some of the maybe pitfalls or things to watch out for when it comes to engaging with esports, particularly when it comes to storytelling and content creation? If non-independent brands, what to keep an eye out for? And if you have any hilarious cringe stories of brands doing that.
Just to clarify, are you talking about kind of engaging people that aren't in the esports space, or targeting people that are specifically?
So let's say you're, I was going to say a computer company, Steve's background, but that's maybe a little bit more in-depth than not anyone. But wanting to, let's say, get involved in the world of esports when you were previously don't or aren't currently. What are some things that you want to be keeping an eye out for if that's the sort of industry you're thinking of stepping into?
How do we get the normies involved?
I can probably speak to this. So, as a white label media agency, we also work with a lot of talent agencies and agencies that work with big brands. So one of my friends works at the agency that handles the Uber deal with Riot right now, and there's also a bunch of deals where they have a Pagoda Spring Roll sponsorship for their league event. So those are the kind of brands you're asking, right? How do you integrate a Spring Roll company or Uber Eats into your League of Legends tournament organically? And I think the way to do it is to have a very organic integration, easing your way in through social content, having key faces involved, just to make it feel like a natural progression. And sometimes you just got to just do it. Like, putting like your ad there, like MasterCard or or Uber Eats, like in like a deal for a campaign. People know that this is a sponsored segment, but once they see it enough, they'll kind of be like, oh yeah, this is good for the scene. It kind of like an it is what it is moment. As long as you're being genuine and speaking to the community through content that's like meaningful and adds value, then you'll see like meaningful engagement and KPI numbers and a good ROI on your ad campaign.
Has anyone played Final Fantasy 15? Yeah, okay. Do you remember the cup noodle? There's a whole quest line just for cup noodle for no reason at all. I don't even think it needs to be. You even hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, it doesn't need to be related at all. You just go for it.
Yeah, I guess, to add to what Eric said, I think there's stuff where you can just put the product in there. You don't necessarily have to do anything more than that. But I think a big thing is to kind of try to avoid insulting the audience. So you might think that, that'd be easy to do, but it sometimes happens. I guess you have to have people in positions that are making the content. You have to have somebody in there that just knows the space enough to where that won't happen. It's not necessarily that you have to find some brilliant way of making cup noodles and Final Fantasy 15 like work out perfectly. But for example, like when I was a freelancer, there was an esports tournament, and I saw there was a producer. I don't remember. I don't know who it is or whatever. But I saw that they were instructing the players to do this, right? To go to the camera and do this, because in his mind, that's all the players were doing. Is they're just hitting keys on a keyboard, and this was a pose, and they got like 5 professional gamers to like do this in front of the camera, and it's like, well, that person probably doesn't know the space, right? But now that's kind of insulting too, right? And if there's just one person that's just can be like, hey, maybe we just do the arms crossed thing. I think that's
the esports, the esports pose.
Yeah, like, and then I mean, but that's there for a reason, right? Just having people in the right places. Like in our company, our editors are like, high ranked like Valorant players and Guilty Gear players, and so if there's any content based on that, we just we don't have to worry that they're gonna make something that's like insulting, right?
Well, it's not just getting kind of companies involved or whatever. Like, Steve, you had to do this when you were a lot younger, a lot less gray in your beard going on, like
hair.
Yeah. Well, and how are you the young guy approaching your companies and saying, hey, we got to do this? Like,
well, it's interesting because I was like, man, like I really want to talk about this because like I used to do brand integrations when I was in esports at a few places, and like, not all brands are going to fit the right esport. You can't, like, for example, let's just say a tire company, for the sake of it, Cal Tire comes to you for an activation, or they want to do a storytelling opportunity. You're not going to be like, boy, howdy, we're going to throw them on this Valorant tournament because everyone there wants tires. No, you're probably going to focus on something that's, something that kind of synergizes, like Rocket League, kind of looking at cars, rockets. Oh, this is funny. They mix, they match. What kind of content can you do with that? Like, hey, let's do an IRL activation where we kind of get people to, do something fun, like maybe build a car, or let's change tires on a car. So you're just kind of thinking about activations that make sense for that brand, but also tie into the game at the same time. You're looking at, having those educational discussions with the customer to, bring them up to speed with the space as well. And be like, hey, we know you really want to talk to this audience. You really want to target this game, but that audience might not be the right fit for you because this audience isn't meeting you there. Let's go on this title because this is where you're going to find that audience that you're wanting to meet. So.
Yeah, Steve just reminded me of a really brilliant campaign. This is probably one of the best campaigns I've seen in the fighting game community. It's basically, you guys know Chipotle, right?
Yeah.
So what does Chipotle have to do with fighting games? And what they did...
Salt.
Well, yeah, there's salt, but yeah. But there's also these Chipotle cards that you would get, which gives you like a free burrito. And what they would do is at EVO, you have like 7,000 people entering the tournament. If you can make it out of your pools, you would get one of these cards. And guess what people do when they get the card? They take a picture of it and put it on social media. Like, look what I won because I'm so good at fighting games. Look, I made it out of pools. And guess what? The better players probably have more, more followers. And it's just so smart, right, to have these cards. So like they're trophies, they're mini trophies, but they also advertise the brand.
It doesn't take much. Like I brokered a deal with a small fighting game, Street Fighter 6 tournament. Just a small community wants to do that. I brokered with a large company, and I'm like, hey, you go ahead, you talk to them, and then I get a call. Shay's super excited. I'm like, oh man, what is it? And he's like, they gave us $250, and they were stoked because they'd never had any support like that ever before, right? So that's not tough to do if you can kind of say, hey, the ROI on this is very good. We have time for one more question. Just kind of wrap up if anyone has. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I have one question to technical. So when you build your content, sometimes you have other people coming in the video and interviews and things like that. When in my experience, when I tried to do that a lot of time, I got the question, what's in it for me? And I was wondering what are the standard agreement that you put to work with other people coming in videos?
Eric, you're the personnel guy.
We do use a lot of interviews for our YouTube videos and for research purposes. It comes down to like saying the premise, like, are you going to integrate them into the video and have them, make an appearance? Maybe the promise is, oh, we'll tag you in the tweet, and then we'll give you like, a bit of exposure there, or maybe we'll give you like the full interview footage if you want to use that for your own time. So I think it comes down to finding like mutual grounds for you to both benefit. A lot of the time in gaming, people are just willing to just like talk to you or to share their story. So we used to run a YouTube series where we talked about like lesser known games in esports. Like, did you know there's like a farming simulator esport, or there's like a Sailor Moon fighting game like esport in like I think like Ontario. Like people are there's really want to like speak passionately about like what they like to do. So usually it's free for me, and the people just love the exposure. So I guess that's like the quid pro quo there.
Yeah, for me, when I started, it was when the fighting game community was very small, especially in the Korea scene. So, I mean, they were just happy that somebody was filming at the moment. I think it was like that in other parts of the FGC. But as it grew, now people starting to have like being approached a lot because they're top players. Sometimes it's hard to get like certain players. But I just ask. And some people just like are chill and cool with it. Like if you don't ask, you'll never know. And sometimes you'll get, refused. Usually it's not a bad experience if you could just ask in a way that gives them an out. You don't have to force it upon anyone or go too forward. But generally, just ask and you'll. It's kind of a social thing, right? You have to kind of see what situation they're in. Don't ask somebody after they just had a crushing defeat, like, hey, you want to talk about how much you suck at this game? Like, they don't want to talk about it. You have to kind of see the situation. And if there's a good opportunity, like some people would just be like, okay, just for reference, if somebody asked me at an event to do an interview or like a podcast, or I don't think I've ever refused. So that's me, but some people might, but you don't know that, right? And so just ask and be smart about it.
My advice on that, it really comes down to what kind of content it is. If it's grassroots, community focused, you're gonna have those relationships established with those creators already, or those community members already. So like generally having that conversation of like, hey, I really want to uplift and amplify the community. I'd like you to be part of this project. Can I get like 30 to 60 seconds of your time? Generally, you are gonna get some good feedback from people. They want to be involved with uplifting the community as well. But if it's ever sponsored content, always pay your content creators, pay your influencers. They might ask for 50, they might ask for 500. It all depends on what your budget is for that project as well. So sponsored content, pay, community, focus on amplifying and lifting everyone up. So, yeah.
Okay. So I kind of want to just kind of touch on something very vague, get you guys to just give an elevator pitch on what you think is changing in the esports industry in content creation and storytelling. And then we can wrap it up, but let's just go down the line. Eric, you start with you.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. So even looking back half a decade, what's a big change in esports right now is there's no esports team right now that's consistently releasing YouTube videos or content that hits over 100,000 views. And you're wondering, like, what's the issue here? And it really comes down to like, are you as a viewer really a fan of like the brand or a fan of the players that are on the team? And once you cycle through players every season, they leave with you too. So that's the greatest concern for esports brands right now is like, where do the loyalties lie? And building like brand loyalty is pretty huge. So you're seeing a rise of like influencer run esports teams like This Guy's Toast or like Ludwig's team, like because people have affinity to these personalities and they're not going to leave next season like with a roster change. So we're really navigating this like weird gray area right now where like brands or teams are like, all right, we want to showcase our players, but we don't know like how much we want to elevate them because maybe they get too popular and more popular than the team. So it's a weird situation right now, but I think people are finding solutions that are like, okay, we just need to make good content, and that's what really matters. Not really about like building like loyalty to like Team Liquid or Cloud9 or like even like a Shopify brand. It's more just like making like good brand identity for the team is what matters, and navigating between like talent and like team stuff. It's just like talking about streamers versus like a corporate brand too. So yeah, esports is like a very weird space now for content creation because you just don't know where to put your dollars because hiring a full-time like media production in-house like person is very expensive. So like every season, like teams come to me and go like, okay, this is my content budget. Where do I need to spend it? What's the most effective way to do it? And how do I get like, like my KPIs hit? And I guess that's where I come in, where I help them like optimize like budgets and help them like help make the best content that they can with like whatever resources they have. I guess to end off my long-winded thing, like esports around content creation, we do a lot with very little right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You get a budget to do some kind of promotional video for like a new player sponsor pickup or something, and I guess. I think what is important, this might be self-promoting or us promoting, is you need people that does video stuff that's in the space, and they will be able to make the most efficient use of those dollars. If it's like, oh, we only got like $5,000 to make this kind of hype trailer for this new pickup that we have for a Tekken team. And so, for example, so we did one for Vitality. Which they picked up Junting, who's a Tekken player from South Korea, and of course we're based in Korea, so it's cheaper to have us film it there. But because they chose us, and I know about fighting games and stuff, I was like, oh, I know exactly what we're gonna do. And we had some discussions about this with other fighting game people in our company. And basically, yeah, there's this old dumpy, like this guy who collects a bunch of arcade cabinets from like the 80s. And there's like, he's not doing anything with it. And why don't we just go there and then have our producer's kid be the young version of him in the arcades playing on the Tekken machine, choosing Eddie, his character that it's known for, and then we'll do like we'll dollar the camera and then cut into the older version, which is the new player, Vitality, right? So the idea of, and something like that, I mean, it's not the most like, this idea is not the most genius idea, but it's an idea that works because we're in the gaming space, and for the amount of the budget that they had, we were able to make that because we know exactly like what this guy's going to say, like how much it's going to cost to use his arcade for how much time, and we know what Junting, like Junting is a friend of mine also, so I know exactly like what he'd want to do and what his schedule's like. Those kind of things, when you have that, it's a huge advantage for making gaming content, I think.
When I'm looking at the space and just following trends, we're still seeing people wanting to follow the team story, the player's journey. We're still seeing people very invested, and kind of like what Eric touched on is like when people rotate their rosters, where do those fans go? So we are seeing more of a rise of the content creator and influencer side when we are looking at these individual players, and they are building up their own followings now. They're building up their own audiences, their own brand. So that's really the big thing that I've kind of seen over the last 5 years, at least within this space, is like individual players are now becoming their own brands, they're becoming their own voice versus being attached to their own team organization. And when they do leave, that does impact content and social content especially. So
Thanks, man. Okay, awesome. I want to thank you guys for sticking around, listening to me talk. I'm very sorry about that. Talking about getting over the cringe, right? But I really want to thank our guests for coming on the show. And I know we didn't get to everyone's questions, but they're all available over the weekends. I don't know if you guys are taking off early or whatever. I know that Steve is the only one that's getting escorted out by bodyguards into a limo right away, so he's going to be unavailable. But yeah, feel free to ask questions, come chats, and we're a small community here. So thanks again, guys.